How long does it take for tirzepatide to suppress appetite? So what we're going to cover in this video is the fact that this GLP-1 and GIP, this co-agonist or dual agonist, can dramatically change your metabolic health by suppressing your appetite. And we're going to talk about the trial data, how to uncover is tirzepatide killing hunger in 48 hours flat, while low doses, some may drag on to 2 weeks. But we're going to also show brain scans and how these brain scans prove tirzepatide blacks out the reward center by week 3, slashing the response by 72% instantly. We're also going to show that there's no appetite drop by week 2 if there's no appetite. This may be a weak dose or a protein famine. So we're going to talk about mistakes that people make on the GLP-1s because, I'm going to show you essentially how to master tirzepatide's hunger timeline to ignite suppression of fat and turn you into an energy burning machine like you are. I'm Regan Archibald, founder of Ageless Future. I make these videos because I believe that there's a massive resurgence and a renaissance when it comes to medical innovations. I've been in longevity medicine for 22 years and I've seen some amazing breakthroughs. And I've also seen some things that just don't work. One of the things that absolutely works is tirzepatide. And one of my goals is I want to die in a young body at a very old age with a full belly. And so how can I do that? Well, this is where these GLP-1s like tirzepatide and retatrutide have been just an amazing way of being able to extend life and extend health when you do it the right way. So let's talk about how long it takes for appetite suppression. So when will I actually feel this working on my hunger is what I get asked all the time. So tirzepatide reaches peak blood levels within about 24 to 72 hours after your injection. And it's typically a weekly injection, so the signal to the brain and gut starts early. Even if the scale hasn't budged, don't worry. For a lot of people, you're waiting for the weight to just melt off. It will start, and actually you want more smaller weight loss, 1 to 2 pounds a week is maximum. The first few days you're going to notice that you get full a little quicker. Snacking becomes less compelling. It turns off the food noise and that urge to graze quiets down. We often describe this as flipping on a master switch before the rest of the engine has time to rev up. So one Pennington biomedical study, they zoomed in on this by tracking the ingestive behavior and brain responses. And by week 3, participants had slashed their hunger and caloric intake by roughly 72% compared to the ones that didn't have tirzepatide. The MRI showed that the key hunger and reward regions in the brain were far less activated by food cues. In other words, it wasn't just I'm trying to eat less. The actual wiring lights up around food and that wiring was dimmed. Now, this is amazing. If you've ever experienced that insatiable desire to eat something, whether it's sugar cravings or ice cream or whatever your thing is, tirzepatide turns down that signaling molecule in the brain, which is why it's studied for addiction. We're seeing it now for gambling addiction, porn addiction, smoking cessation, all kinds of addiction. I even have had clients who've been frustrated. They're like, Regan, I'm really mad at you. I'm like, why? You're getting better. I've seen your health improve. They're like, well, your team, they've got me on tirzepatide and I don't like alcohol anymore. And so I'm like, well, that makes my job easier. We're going to help you get to the place you want to go to in the shortest amount of time possible. So for those of you, if you're looking at your health and you're like, okay, I need to turn off this food noise, then the very first thing you need to say is, if you're not focused on food, what are you going to be focused on? And so I'm going to ask you a question that I ask every single client who comes into our practice for our longevity retreats. But what would you like to have happen in the next 90 days with your health that would give you 5 years of progress? And that could be from a body composition, it could be cognitively, but tirzepatide helps you kick things off because you're not dependent on willpower alone. And that's where the real beauty lies. And so when you dim the food noise in a measurable way, You want to think starting dose matters because many protocols begin at a low starter dose, like 2.5 milligrams. And then you ease into it, and that reduces your chances of the side effects like nausea, constipation, and bloating. And then on that low dose, most people feel a mild shift in week 1. Some people need a couple of weeks to really get that the gradient concentration higher before it really gets locked in. As doses are gradually escalated, as you need it, we like to keep you on the smallest amount of dose that yields the highest level of outcome so that we down-regulate any kind of risk associated. If the satiety signal, when it seems to intensify, this can be like this stock engine, flipping a one-time switch. So if we can get appetite suppression on a lower dose, like a 2.5 milligram, you'll notice it within the first 48 hours. And if you have not noticed anything at week 2, this suggests that you need a more stabilized dose, and you may want to ramp that up over the first month. And so there's a lot of studies on this. One was published in the Cleveland Clinic. How long does it take for GLP-1s to suppress appetite? I would definitely recommend you look into that. There's also, Tirzepatide, ingestive behavior, that was published in 2025. There's plenty of studies for how long Tirzepatide does it take to work. But the second thing we want to look at is, yes, it's dose dependent. We also want to look at, is the dose too weak, or are you protein starved? Now, this is the most important, because whenever you're looking at your body, you want to think of building a system that's reproducible. There's a lot of people out there pushing peptides. They're talking about the greatest supplement, these new longevity treatments that will, completely, they'll shave off 10 years of your life. Well, those things are great for headlines, but I can tell you, the only way that Tirzepatide is going to work for you, semaglutide, retatrutide, any peptide, BPC, thymosin beta-4, tesamorelin, MOTS-C, the only way is if you have a system. And the very first thing in that system is that question I asked: clarify, where do you want your health to be 90 days from now? And what's that one thing that would give you 5 years of progress? And was able to meet Tim Ferriss several years ago, and in the talk that he gave, he shared this fact that he likes to look at making one decision that makes 1,000 go away. Now, if we can turn off your food noise, then that can be that one decision that makes 1,000 go away. But here's the risk. If you turn off food noise and you're not eating protein, now what happens is your body becomes in a deficit. And if you're a woman watching this, I have a whole video on how Tirzepatide impacts female hormones. But when you go into a starvation or caloric deficit, it's like a wrecking ball to your hormones. So you got to eat protein. And this is the biggest thing when it comes to appetite suppression. If your body is hungry all the time and you're on Tirzepatide, you're simply not eating enough. And it could be proteins is usually where we lean on first. Women, you want to be eating 15 to 30 grams of protein within that first 30 minutes to an hour of waking. Especially don't exercise in a fasted state. Don't prolong your fast, especially during different times of your cycle. But the other thing you want to look at are resistant starches. So are you eating enough carbohydrates so you actually have the glucose reserves that your body needs? And then finally, are you getting an adequate amounts of fats? And many people on these crazy macro diets, we look at their fat content and you're getting like 30 grams of fat. And that's really hard on the brain. It's hard on the entire metabolic engine, rougher on the liver, rougher on the gallbladder. So think about working with the team, getting the right nutritional plan that follows blood labs, gut testing, genetic testing, metabolomics. This is the right way to structure your health. Don't play small when it comes to fixing your health. Fix it for good. And for those of you who want to go deeper, learn more about how you can get these tests ran, how you can get an entire program built that's customized to you, that gives you a predictable result versus you guessing, just shooting peptides and hoping that they work or taking a bunch of supplements. All you need to do is go to agelessfuture.com. We've made it simple. Book a free intro call. We'll find out what your health goals are, see if we can meet your needs, and then we'll talk to you about what it looks like to work with us. So I'm Regan Archibald. Appreciate you watching this. See you on the next video.